Good afternoon. This is Professor Charlie Evans with some end of the course remarks as we finish up History 1112, World Civ 2, and you all take your final exam. If you look back at the course of history that we've covered since the midterm exam, let's say, to make it easy, about 100 years, one of the first things that you'll notice is what I call the shift in importance of the world. In other words, what happens in the world has become just as important as what happens in the United States and Western Europe in that span of time. Events in China today are just as important as events in the United States today. That's not really what the case was 100 years ago. The other thing that I note here is that the world is far more interconnected. News and communication and events travel far more quickly than they did 100 years ago. And so when that event happens in China, it's immediately known in the United States and France and can immediately affect what's going on in the United States and France. And you see this all the time with events in the financial sphere, stocks, bonds, deficits, surpluses, and how something somewhere else in the world can affect the entire economic structure of the world. So that's clearly the two things that have happened in the last 100 years. Time. I don't hear the wars. The wars are now all global wars, World War I, World War II, etc. But there are still regional conflicts that are extremely important in the world, such as the Iran-Iraq conflict, the India-Pakistan conflicts. But these conflicts tend to be played out now on a world stage that involve all the world's nations and countries, and it's really hard to localize a conflict. The civil war in Sudan is a good example. One would think that that would be a local conflict, a religious conflict between factions within Sudan, but it involved important global countries as players in that conflict. I got a couple other things here. Of course, you've studied decolonization, the nation building, the creation of countries in Africa, South Asia, Southeast Asia, the idea of this process of modernization and its pitfalls, the whole changing socioeconomic structure of countries in the world as they are faced with the pressures of economic and financial modernization. And the last thing, of course, I've written down here is human rights. And this, of course, is part of your final exam when you comment upon the UN Declaration of Human Rights. But the charge to implement the protection of human rights in the world is a relatively recent charge, really dating back to the 1970s. So that's maybe 40 years when human rights were made an important part of United States foreign policy by President Carter. But the effort to guarantee human rights in the world has had, shall we say, mixed results in the 40 years since the 1970s. There have been some successes where human rights excesses have been wiped out or taken care of, and where new regimes have been created that are protecting human rights in a way that was better than what went on before. But there has still been some egregious violations of human rights in the world in the last 40 years. And so that's kind of like a continuing task or continuing theme of world history. And so all these things here, this kind of shift in a global power and global importance, the kind of knitting together of a global community, the changing nature of the individual countries in the world and everything are things that we've studied in this second half of World Civ 2.